What up? Salvador Briggman here. Welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. On this show, we talk about crowdfunding and really get into the nitty-gritty of how to run a successful crowdfunding campaign, how to raise money for a new startup company, how to get funding for a new product, or even something like a creative invention, a tabletop game, a publishing book, right? A play, a theater project, anything like that. We talk about that on this podcast. And I really started this show in 2015 for you. People just like you at home, listening on the way to work, maybe listening while you're working out or you're even doing the dishes, right? And you want to download some knowledge and information into your brain. You want to get access to the right information so that way you can actually get the funding that you deserve for your passion project or to scale up a particular startup or campaign, which you've been working on for a long time. I think today's episode is actually a great example of a dynamic duo, a team that did just that. On today's show, we are talking with a team who was able to raise over $2 million, million with an M, right? $1 million with an equity crowdfunding campaign. And when I started to talk about this, back in the day, I would have conversations with coaching students. I would have conversations with clients. I would have conversations with friends, etc., talking about the rise of crowdfunding. And, I feel very similar when it comes to equity crowdfunding because this thing is a bonanza. I'm seeing so many successful campaigns being launched on platforms like StartEngine, WeFunder, Seed Invest, Republic, all these other biggies in the industry. And sometimes it kind of feels like you're a little bit crazy because I see some of these things working behind the scenes. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to share this, right? Because other people, other entrepreneurs, other inventors need to be taking action on this high quality information because I'm telling you, this can really unlock your success when it comes to crowdfunding. So if you want to discover what went into this $2 million equity crowdfunding campaign, we're going to talk about that on today's show. In addition, I try to interview real-world entrepreneurs, people that are in the trenches right now. I got some other podcasts out there on subjects like Kickstarter, Indiegogo, crowdfunding, nonprofit crowdfunding even. For those people that are doing tabletops, I got some great episodes out there on my show. So if you're a first-time listener, go and check out some of my other episodes. There's so much in the archives. This is a treasure trove, really just nuggets of gold, right? When it comes to what works, what's working right now, and the engine, the mechanics behind a successful crowdfunding campaign. So we're going to dive right into this interview with this team who's raised $2 million with an equity crowdfunding campaign. One other quick mention before we dive right into that is that if you are ready to get access to the right information, if you're ready to upgrade the tactics, the strategy that goes into equity crowdfunding campaigns specifically, I put together this free course for you, which is designed to fast track you on the journey to not only raising funds, but impacting the world. If you want to kind of get access to the tactics that work to drive funding, to get people showing up, to getting investors for your business, for your startup, I think that this is a great opportunity for you to enroll in this free course. It is 100% free. All you got to do is go to the link I'm about to mention. It's kind of like you're going back to school. Like, I hated school, honestly, but it's kind of like you're going to a better version of school where you're actually learning something that you care about. So go to this link at crowdcrux.com/equity course. That link is crowdcrux.com/equity course, crowdcrux.com/equity course. We'll take you there. Just enter your name and email, and you can start getting some lessons from me on a weekly basis. And in addition, I started this new community and people have been joining this thing. Really exciting when it comes to other entrepreneurs, other startups that are doing an equity crowdfunding campaign. So I'll be sure to also invite you into that community if you do join the free course. Go and check this out at crowdcrux.com/equity course. And if you are ready to grab the textbook, the blueprint, the playbook, if you would, when it comes to smashing through your goal with an equity crowdfunding campaign, using something called regulation crowdfunding, whether you're raising money on StartEngine, Republic, WeFunder, whichever platform, this is literally a playbook when it comes to running a successful campaign. Go to this link at crowdcrux.com/equity audio. So this link will take you to my friends at Audible, where you can actually download a free version of my book, Equity Crowdfunding Explained. All you got to do is get a free 30-day trial of Audible. You can get a free copy of Equity Crowdfunding Explained at the link crowdcrux.com/equity audio. Again, crowdcrux.com/equity audio. All right, guys, let's get into this interview and let's discover how this team raised over $2 million with a equity crowdfunding campaign on StartEngine. It is coming up right after this. Hey guys, welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. Today we are speaking with a mega success story in the realm of equity crowdfunding, having already raised nearly $2 million on StartEngine. They have an incredibly new technology project, really cool innovation that we'll be getting into in just a second. And we are lucky enough to have two members of the team here today. We got Paul, the CEO, and Petra. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Great to be here.
So I'd love to get started. Maybe we can just fill in some gaps in that interview or that intro and kind of just share a little bit about what your project is and also the technology that you guys have been developing here.
Sure. Yeah. So we're R3 Printing. We're a 3D printing startup that's looking to automate the process of 3D printing in order to make it a viable mass manufacturing method. Right now, 3D printing is an incredible technology. It's already being used in a lot of high-end applications like aerospace and automotive. It can make things stronger and lighter at the same time, which if you're building an airplane or an electric car where weight matters, but strength also matters, that's huge. But it's just not able to fully penetrate and reach our everyday lives. The applications for 3D printing to penetrate into the things that we use personally daily, the things that you touch and wear, you wear, insoles, those could be 3D printed for you. You wear headphones or AirPods, those can be 3D printed to fit your ear. All those things are possible with technology, but it's just too expensive. And the reason for that is there's too much manual labor. It's not automated. It's actually quite a manual process to run a 3D printing operation. And at R3, that's exactly what we're building out. We're going to automate the process of 3D printing. So the moment the file comes in, to the moment the part leaves the factory floor, no human intervention required. This is going to be the equivalent of like the software revolution in cloud computing, but it's going to be cloud manufacturing powered by R3. We're really excited about that.
Super cool, super cool. And how long have you been on this journey since you kind of started designing it and then eventually have gotten to this point?
We were founded in 2018. So we've been at it for a little bit, but we're still quite a young company as far as, startups in this industry go. So we're going to be releasing our product publicly within a year. It's already out there being tested by prospective customers and testing partners. We're just getting final feedback. As we refine it, kind of tweak the manufacturing and assembly to lower the cost because we're targeting a very aggressive price point. We're still an early stage, but very mature startup that's in a pretty exciting time.
Exciting. And what started the conversation internally when it comes to equity crowdfunding? Because I feel like it's such a new concept, right? I mean, you guys have this really cool technology that's going to make it easier to manufacture and to do it in a much more streamlined way. How did that conversation start when it came to doing an equity crowdfunding campaign?
Yeah, well, we were doing a program at a tech accelerator. This was back in 2018. So crowdfunding was still pretty new. And we came across one of the companies in our cohort who were doing a funding round through Republic. So we looked into it. We hadn't heard much about it since, I had just come out. It was very new, and we decided to give it a go. And after trying it on Republic, we had such a great experience that we haven't looked back.
And how did that first campaign go?
It went well. I think the thing about equity crowdfunding is it's a very specific way of raising money. So you kind of have to get used to how everything works, how to reach your investors. Investors have a lot of questions that you answer, and it's very high engagement. But given it's something that we liked doing and we got a great response from the investor community, we had really good synergy there. And it just kind of took off from there. So obviously it went well since we're still doing it.
And for what I understand, this most recent campaign, you guys have done a mega raise, right? You've gotten tons of investors, lots of people that are singing your praises. Why do you feel like people are investing in this?
I think they see the value of 3D printing and how it's really changing the world. It's going to affect every single industry from aerospace to automotive to fashion. And I think people just see how this industry is only at the beginning of the potential that it has It's an $18 billion industry right now, and it's forecasted to blow up into a $115 billion industry by 2030. And I think investors are just very excited about its potential and how it's just starting to gain momentum. Because as far as industries go, it's not actually that old. It started off kind of in the 80s, and there's still a lot of work to be done to make 3D printing ubiquitous and to make it accessible to everyone. And they see that we're working on that. And, we have a solid business plan. We love communicating with our investors very clearly. We answer all the questions. And I think that just gets people really excited.
And talk to me a tiny bit about the team that's really executing upon this massive vision. Like, why is this something that you're so passionate about? Why do you feel like you're uniquely designed to kind of tackle this?
Yeah, it's funny because it feels almost like a secret sauce. And I think the drive behind our success in building R3 is that Petra and I have very complementary backgrounds. We have combined track records in engineering and technology on my end versus media and marketing on Petra's end. And I think that's what makes us such a great team. You really need both, right? You need the technical manpower in order to build a great product. This is a technical product. But you also need to be able to tell your story to both investors and your customers, right? And Petra has a fantastic track record in doing that, both telling the story as well as the ways of getting it out there. I'm a native New Yorker. My parents came to the States when they escaped communist Poland in the 80s. I get my grit and work ethic from that. I have a STEM background. I applied that to streaming technology and business processes in finance. My first two jobs were basically automating things that were slowing the companies I was working for down. So I saw the same opportunity in 3D printing, and decided to start R3 when I realized there's this huge need for automation. That's kind of how R3 was born. Petra has her complementary background that, really fits in as well. Petra, I don't know if you want to.
Yeah. So I come from a very entrepreneurial family. My grandparents each set ran their own businesses, and my dad's also an entrepreneur. He designs and teaches leadership and business psychology programs at business schools. And I feel like how I grew up really influenced my approach to life. I'm a very curious person. I love pushing boundaries. I've lived in 5 different countries and then landed in New York, where I went to NYU. And then for work, I worked a lot in media and marketing at some pretty cool places like ABC News and Amnet, which is a part of Dentsu. And I think that there's no place like Manhattan to really teach you a great work ethic. And that's really helped with R3.
I love it. And I love the New York hustle for sure. I lived there for about 6 years. So great hustle, great community. So, when it comes to this, between you and me, you're kind of also exploring this new realm of like equity crowdfunding. What was going through your mind before you launched this campaign on StartEngine? What were some of the things that you guys were thinking here?
Well, for StartEngine, when we did Republic and then we opened up on StartEngine. So I think whenever you're doing something new for the first time, there's that question of how things are going to go since you're not familiar with the investor base or how the platform works. But we kind of seize opportunities as we see them, and we decided to launch. And, it's kind of like riding a bike. Like once you get used to it and you get in the flow of things, it becomes a lot easier. So before launching, we just wanted to look into how everything worked, how it might be different from Republic. But once we launched and we got into the flow of things, we had a great time and we really started to grow our community there. So this is actually our second round of fundraising on StartEngine. We're currently open, check us out, and it's going really well. So we're very thankful for that.
What did it feel like when you went live and you started to have all of these people pouring into the campaign? I see your discussion section, leaving comments, investing. What did that feel like for you guys?
Well, it felt great. Obviously, whenever you're starting something, you want it to be successful. So when something picks up steam, it's obviously a great feeling. But like we said, we're very hardworking. So it's not like we decided to just sit back and, sip margaritas or something. Like this is all for R3 printing. And it really gave us the resources to be able to plow ahead with product development, getting testing partners, getting the printer out there. So it just really started to speed up the process of growing R3 printing into what our vision is.
Yeah, you guys aren't on a beach right now sipping margaritas for sure. definitely hustling.
Nope.
So one of the other questions I had, someone like looking in at this, not only is it really cool technology, but I think for a lot of the founders and entrepreneurs, people who probably your father as well teach, they're like, gosh, this is mega, this is huge. Do you have any tips or advice for someone who might be interested in using this equity crowdfunding mechanism in terms of marketing or in terms of what worked for you well with strategy? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the most important thing is to make sure that whatever strategy you're pursuing in your company is synergistic with your long-term goals, right? If there's some sort of dissonance between what you're doing now versus what your company really should be working towards in the long term, it's not going to work. So for us, right, it's equity crowdfunding was a way to get us out there, right? So our investors had actually introduced us to testing partners and potential customers, right? Some universities that might be interested in using 3D printers that we didn't know that they had that need, right? We just didn't think of them as that type of university. And we got a direct introduction that was very productive. So I think the most important is to make sure that values are always aligned. I mean, I guess that's just a good leadership principle in general, but especially with equity crowdfunding, right? People need to see very clearly what you stand for, and then that needs to jive on your equity crowdfunding page with what you stand for long term as a company. It's very important.
And do you have anything to add to that response, Petra?
Well, I totally agree with what he said. I think in terms of raising, like, clear communication is really important. You have to be accessible as a company, right? People don't like aloof founders who aren't actively engaging on the platform. That's why, like I said, you have to answer every investor comment. You have to have a very clear vision. We post campaign updates multiple times a week to make sure everyone knows exactly what we're working on, and they get to come on the journey with us and follow along on the progress we're making.
If you're worried about the fulfillment and shipping part of your Kickstarter campaign when it comes to getting out all those perks and rewards to your backers, rest assured, I've put together a complete Kickstarter fulfillment and shipping checklist for you, and it's free. This is sponsored by the folks at Fulfillrite, and they thought that you should have this checklist as part of your arsenal going into a crowdfunding campaign. If you want to get instant access to this checklist, and it's free, you can go to fulfillrite.com/checklist. Again, that is fulfillrite.com/checklist, fulfillrite.com/checklist. Just go to that link and you can download it immediately. What do you think about this idea of using more like modern technology, like being able to do like a webinar or Zoom, or do you find people call you, investors and those kinds of things? Are you using any of those kinds of techniques when it comes to the raise?
We don't really get phone calls for the most part. I think it's just mostly emails or comments on our StartEngine page or a submission through our web form. We have an email list for all our investors. So any investor that's kind of a confirmed investor gets put on our email list. So they usually just respond to us at investors@r3printing.com. I think mostly because it's easier when a question pops into your head. Everyone has their smartphone. They whip it out. Even as they're walking to lunch, like, hey, I heard about this. What does this mean for my investment? We get those questions all the time. Webinars are very interesting. We want to do a little bit more of those in the future. We've been mostly communicating through the equity crowdfunding platform itself. Like Petra said, multiple campaign updates a week. We're a very busy company. We're growing, we're building. So we always have a lot to say and to show for ourselves. So that's been very successful and investors have been satisfied there. But we hear positive feedback whenever we do, let's say, a podcast like this, right? Even though it's not live with the investors per se, they kind of like the more IRL type experience with us talking. So we want to do more of that in the future. I'd say anyone who's considering them should absolutely do them. And we're going to do more of that in the future because I think people like it. Get ourselves out there as people.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like watching Shark Tank. I don't know if you guys watch that show ever, but you get to know like the entrepreneur and like their story and why they're so passionate about their product and the industry. So I do think that personal touch, like you said, kind of goes a long way. Kind of on that note, like, you guys are hustling, you're in New York City, you're building a startup company, you're shipping product. Do you have any advice for other startup founders in the community when it comes to getting their ideas to that stage? And maybe they have a prototype, like really getting it off the ground and being successful. Do you have any advice on that front?
There's nothing like just hand to the grindstone grit and hard work. We were obviously, we didn't sneeze and overnight a, multi-million-dollar R&D project just came to life in the form of R3 printer. There was a time where, R3 was just an idea, right? Petra and I bootstrapped, we put our own money into the company and got the initial prototypes. Then, we raised our initial crowdfunding rounds where, things were in the earlier stages. And, we communicated that clearly. It was a very uphill battle. We had to answer tons of really tough questions. Sometimes each investor would there'd be like a 5 or 6 times kind of back and forth with each investor to answer their questions before they got us. So imagine doing that for, our first round on Republic was $100,000, right? So some people think that, they should just send a couple of pitch decks out there and, Andreessen or Sequoia is going to fund them for, $5 million. That's absolutely not the case. And it's not the case with equity crowdfunding either. The hard work is in those earlier stages. You have to get over that hump. And there's nothing just like clear communication, just putting yourself out there saying, hey, we might be in the early stages, but this is why we're going to succeed. And we have A, B, and C plans to do so. And we've already achieved, this first step and a half. And that's like your proof that we're already on our way and we're making good on our promises. And I think that's what investors are going to want to see. It's going to be an uphill battle, but you can convince people if you put yourself out there and put in the time.
I think that's a great point. And it's kind of a follow-up for Petra. You both are in New York City and you could have very lucrative, cushy jobs, great benefits, all that kind of stuff. Why is it that you would want to kind of jump ship or be your own boss? Or why was it such like a strong motivation for you? Why was that a choice that you made?
For sure. Yeah, back then we were in New York. Now we're actually in LA. But I think the biggest motivation is having the personal investment in making your company succeed. The thing in corporate is, you are still funneled into a role. And even if you have some great ideas, you can't necessarily get them implemented because you have your job and that's what you need to stick to. But like I said, growing up in a very entrepreneurial family, I always had that mindset of like, how does the business run? How can I learn more on how the bigger machine works and understand how the world works? So I think having that investment in every aspect of the company is really appealing. Like Paul said, it's, hand to the grindstone, really hardcore being a startup founder. So you have to have the personality that matches with that type of lifestyle. It's definitely not for everyone. A lot of people I know, they like to clock in and clock out, and they don't like to necessarily think about work 24/7, 365. And that's definitely something that comes with running a business. But for me and for Paul, it's worth it because that's just the way we work.
Yeah, I think that's an awesome perspective. And I do think it's important to be mindful, right, of kind of the lifestyle that you want as well. Exactly. To kind of circle back to R3, I mean, you're thinking about the technology implementation, like what would it really take for this to be a $1 billion company, to go big, to have this be used by manufacturers all over the world? What do you feel like needs to happen when it comes to that?
Well, it's going to be a multi-step process, right? And that's kind of what we've communicated on our page. So the first building block is definitely R3 printer. It's the cornerstone, but there's more to 3D printing than just the 3D printer, right? That's why we say we're building a platform for on-demand manufacturers to use to, run and scale their businesses on. Similar to like AWS isn't, just the servers, right? It's everything that makes it up. So that's what we have to roll out. So after R3 printer, we already have 2 more products in the pipeline. These are kind of like add-on modules that you can add to, R3 printer or kind of automate further downstream processes in, the 3D printing as a manufacturing process. And we have that roadmap. So it's probably going to take about 5 or 6 products in both the hardware and software realm. We have the first one coming out within a year. We have 2 more that are going to be launched basically right after. And those building blocks that can all get snapped together in different configuration, right? Each manufacturer is unique. They have a different layout in their factory. They have a different workflow. So us putting in the time to engineer our products to be kind of reconfigurable for our customers is super, super important. So a lot of it, so it's kind of like a two-part question or a two-part answer to your question. What will it take for R3 to be a billion-dollar company? Part of it has already been done. The infrastructure, the way we've designed our products, that had to happen before the launch, and then the subsequent products that happen after the launch of this first one. I think that's going to be what it takes. Petra, you want to jump in?
Yeah, and then to tack on to that, I think that having the customer in mind is really important, and being able to build everything out that people actually want. So we get a lot of feedback, both from investors who own 3D printers or want to get a 3D printer, as well as our testing partners, on what would make them really use us and find us indispensable. And we've gotten great feedback. I think once you get a customer who's really happy and you're building a product for them, then they'll be loyal to you, right? Because you're listening to them. A lot of companies who go kind of corporate, like bigger industrial 3D printing companies, they'll lock customers into proprietary materials and software, and then customers kind of begrudgingly use their products because they know the company is kind of extracting what they can, and that it's not putting the customer first. And we think our approach of giving people what they want will kind of create that momentum, because it'll be a synergistic relationship with our customers.
I was kind of looking through your page also here on StartEngine, which is beautiful, very well designed, great copy. Out of curiosity, what made you switch over from Republic to StartEngine?
It was time to move on, right? So we did 2 raises on Republic, right? Republic was our first step into equity crowdfunding. We did 2 smaller rounds, and R3 was growing. We knew this next round was going to be bigger, right? We're a more mature company, so more investors would be aligned, or I guess our proposition would be more aligned with more investors, what they were looking for. And StartEngine is a bigger platform just by the sheer numbers. So it was time for us to find a bigger platform. We made early contact with them. This was around the time that we moved the company to LA. So we met them in person. We met their team, and we liked what we saw. So we decided to take a chance on them to host our next funding round, and we're glad we did. We had a ton of success.
Nice. Where can people go to learn more about your campaign and also about your company?
Yeah, they can go on StartEngine, look up R3 Printing, and that has the most comprehensive amount of information on us. They can also, drop a question in the questions section. They can also go to our website, r3printing.com. There's a form that they can submit if they have any questions, and there's also more information there.
Yep, and we link to our StartEngine page right from our website as well.
Okay, awesome. I'll be sure to link that up in the show notes. So I got 2 final questions for you. My first final question is, for those that are interested in doing a campaign in the way that you have, an equity crowdfunding campaign, do you have any tidbits or advice for gathering investors or getting people excited, or leading up to the launch? Are there any things that you would communicate for someone who's interested in doing that?
I'd say talk to your platform, right? The platform that you choose, do your research on which one is the best one for you. They all have their pros and cons. And then with the one that you choose, literally ask them what is best, right? The strategies are going to be different depending on what the platform is going to be. And the one piece of advice that we can say is doing your pre-work ahead of launch is important. Launch strong, try to find a community, no matter how small it is, but launch with a community already knowledgeable about you and the company. And I think that's what I would say. Petra, what would you say for that?
Yeah, and definitely take time building out your page, because that's, the first impression investors are going to get. That's where they're going to get all their information from. So you want to make sure that you work hard on that. You make sure your message is clear, that it's built out, that any questions you can imagine an investor might have, you're preemptively answering, so that when you launch, people get what you stand for, what you're working on, and all of that.
And my final question is, and you can speak directly to the audience and we can end on this note. It could either be a quote that you like, it could be a word of encouragement for other people out there when it comes to their projects or what they're working on, or even participating. It could be a final bit of advice or tip for entrepreneurs or founders, anything in those lines. We can end on that note.
Yeah, I'd say our personal favorite quote here at R3, and this is one that I've loved my whole life, is by an industrial designer, Dieter Rams, who inspired a lot of the Apple product designs. And the quote is less but better. And that's what we strive for here at R3. So in both our products, right, they're very simply designed, right? It's approachable, you know exactly what it is, but these are incredibly powerful machines, right? This is a machine that can print metal and plastic in the same machine. That's not out there on the market, but we can do that. But it's a simple to use machine. It's very approachable. And then we apply that also to our marketing on our page. Like Petra said, on our page, you scroll through it, you know exactly what we stand for at R3. And I think it's been our mantra and our guiding force internally.
Yeah, definitely. I think that something may look simple, but it's actually very hard to create something that's complex but simple. So we definitely love that mantra.
Yeah.
Well said. Well said. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate all the advice and tips that you've shared. And I'll also be sure to link up the campaign in the show notes. Thanks a lot and good luck with your next raise.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Sounds great. Yeah, send us the link once it's live. We'd love to share with our community too.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. Again, my name is Salvador Briggman. Thank you for listening to this show and on this podcast. And also go and check me out on YouTube. I am on Spotify. I am on Instagram. I am taking over the globe, global domination here. And I'd love it if you slide into my Instagram DMs. Would love it if you hit me up and leave a comment on YouTube. We got some great videos out there I put out there every single week when it comes to the topic of crowdfunding, online business, raising money, e-commerce, you name it, right? And I'm really trying to bring this information to the forefront. I'm trying to do this for you, man, because I think that the quality of information in this industry really sucks, right? It's just not that great. And when I see companies like this, startups like this, raising millions of dollars online from everyday, ordinary Americans, normal investors, right? Retail investors who believe in their idea, who believe in the business plan, who believe in the change that this team is trying to make in the world. That's just inspiring. That's exciting. And I think that as well, it's kind of almost crazy or insane. The fact that anyone out there now, if you're an innovator, you're a creator, you're an entrepreneur, you have a business that maybe is already producing some results and you're trying to scale that up, no matter what you are, you can actually use crowdfunding, the power of the crowd, to raise funding, to get your business to the next level, to impact the world in a greater way, to really do good, right, when it comes to humanity, when it comes to, international services and products and bringing some cool stuff into the world. Like, we live in such exciting times, my friend. And I think that if you're not using the tools at your disposal, you're just missing out. The game is being played, but you are not in the ring, right? It's a spectator sport. So if you're ready to get into the ring, right, you want to actually play the game, I can give you a ticket to that extremely fun, exciting, dynamic, fun, impactful experience, which is running a successful crowdfunding campaign. And if you're a little bit uncertain maybe about getting into that ring, think of me as kind of like the coach who's going to really make sure you have everything squared away, A to Z, all of your ducks in a row, so that when you go into that ring, you are prepared and you are going to deliver that fatal knockout punch and you are going to smash through your fundraising goal. If that sounds interesting to you, I do one-on-one individual intensive coaching calls with students who are looking to raise money when it comes to equity crowdfunding, when it comes to Kickstarter, Indiegogo, e-commerce, business. We talk a lot about different subjects. I would say that kind of a through line is that many of my students are trying to do a crowdfunding campaign. I also get other students as well who are just interested in more business consultation and business consulting. But that being said, if you are looking to run a successful campaign, go and check out the link I'm about to mention and book a one-on-one individual coaching call with me, and we can get that squared away ASAP. Go to this link at crowdcrux.com/coaching. That link is crowdcrux.com/coaching. Crowdcrux.com/coaching will take you there, and you can fill out a little bit of information about you, about what you're trying to do, about what you're trying to accomplish. Tell me more about your product or your business or your service, what stage you're in, all that kind of stuff. And we can get that call scheduled again at crowdcrux.com/coaching. Thank you so much, man. I hope that you're making some progress towards your goals. I hope that you're continuing to dream big. It costs nothing to dream big, to really be hungry about the things that we're trying to achieve in life for ourselves, for our family, to impact the world, to do good in the society. And I commend you so much for showing up every single week to really be a student of crowdfunding. Thank you so much. Leave a positive rating and review, and I will see you next time.